Time for coffee.
Time for coffee. And as it says on the screen, it's time to regroup and reboot.
Well, and I think coffee can be included in that.
I think so.
Take your coffee. Take your coffee to your special place that Ross was talking about last Sunday on your place to withdraw and regroup and refresh.
That's right. And welcome back, Pastor Lydia and Pastor Scott from annual conference. From what I saw on Facebook, that was a very lively, spiritual-filled weekend. I'm anxious and excited to hear about all of that. You know, I thought it was interesting. One of the things that Pastor Ross mentioned yesterday was, and I guess I knew this, but I hadn't thought about it, that John Wesley was the one that started the conference to gather preachers together so they could share and learn and probably, I doubt they voted on anything. I don't know about that, but wow, I'm not sure what we've got going on there. But it was a time that preachers could withdraw from their evangelism, from their outreach, so that they could rebuild, refresh, regroup, refurbish. We didn't have the term reboot at that time, but now we do, and we all understand what that means. So, and it's a form of, like Pastor Ross said yesterday, withdrawing from the busyness and the craziness of the world that we live in. Sometimes that's really, really hard to do. But as he asked us, where is that place? Where do you go when you need to just withdraw and regroup, refresh? He suggested we could go to the sanctuary, and I've thought of that many times. Debbie, I'm not hearing you. Okay, well, I'm not sure what happened, but anyway, so Pastor Ross was talking about Jesus and how he withdrew from his evangelism opportunities, the outreach that he was doing when he was out sharing the love of God and talking about the way that we should live and how we should treat people and the whole walk of Christianity. And there were a number of scripture references that he made about Jesus withdrawing. And one was Matthew 12, 14 and 15. And it says, but the Pharisees went out and plotted how they might kill Jesus. Aware of this, Jesus withdrew from that place. So that was one. He was warned, or he was aware of danger. So he withdrew. And then Matthew 14, verse 13, when Jesus heard what had happened, this is when he found out about his cousin John the Baptist, that he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. So he knew he was in danger, and then he was mourning, or he was in a very sad place in his life. And Luke 5:16, but Jesus often withdrew to the wilderness and prayed. And all of these times when Jesus withdrew, he prayed. And then again, I go back to the question that Pastor Ross asked us: where is our place? What is our wilderness that we go to? I'm not hearing you, Debbie. Sometimes when we need to just be alone, and that's how we withdraw, when we just need some time alone to regroup, reboot, refresh our minds. Sometimes we just need to be able to sit in a quiet place. And Debbie and I've talked a lot about just listening to nature and enjoying what we're seeing and the surroundings, and realizing that God made all of that for us. He made all of that for us. So sometimes we just sit and listen quietly. Sometimes if we listen and our mind starts going crazy and we can't shut off the thoughts, sometimes like at night, sometimes God finds a way to slip in there quickly between some of those crazy thoughts that are whirling in our head. And if we hear that, if we see that in nature, something that he has brought to us, something that he is sharing with us, then we hear that voice, but we still need to listen to what that is saying, what that says to us. Is your speaker back, Debbie?
I'm not sure.
Yes. It
Well,
is.
I get in my car and I drive. That is one of my special places, and I've had God come to me in time. Now, granted, I'm sure He's keeping me safe, and I'm trying to pay attention. I drive my car, but I don't even turn the radio on. And I just wait.
You're cutting out. You're cutting out really bad. I don't know what.
Is that better?
So I know Debbie said she gets in her car and drives, sometimes without the radio on, and I don't know. I turned my radio off in the car several months ago, and I just, even on the weekend trips that I went on, it was like, I just don't want the radio on. I just want to drive across the country and enjoy the scenery and the countryside and look at the beautiful farms. And that comes the farm girl part of me. But just being in your own space by yourself is very refreshing. I like to sit on the front porch and look out across, because there are no houses across the street from me. Yes, the school is there, but it's just peaceful. And there's not that many sounds or city noises, I'll call them, the distractions. And then I can go sit in the backyard or on the back deck and look at the birds that are swooping in the sky, or the squirrels that are running. I mean, we have a lot of stuff that runs through the backyard. We saw chipmunks yesterday. Again, we hadn't seen chipmunks for a long, long time. We used to have to go to Colorado to see the chipmunks playing. So anyway, so after Pastor Ross talked to us about reboot, refresh, annual conference, John Wesley's first conferences. Then Debbie followed. Oh, Patricia was before, but I connected these two in reverse order because what Patricia was talking about with the little girls was frog, fully rely on God. Well, that has been part of First United Methodist for a lot of years. Really, I don't know for sure what year Pastor Donis came to us, but she was the one that had lots and lots and lots of frogs in her office. And she would share those with the children in the children's sermon. And so we were aware when I saw frog up on the bulletin that she had up there yesterday, I thought, I know, fully rely on God. And it was interesting because she told the little girls, God's got this. And I thought, okay, let that soak in. But then she followed that up real quick with God's light is always on for us 24/7. And I thought, light, like electricity light. And I was like, no, God's light, God's sun is on for us 24/7. And how important that is for us to remember that Jesus is there 24/7. All we have to do is sit quietly and listen, or put our hands and feet to work to do his work for us. And doing that work, Debbie came across an article about the 7 danger signs that your church has become an insider church. And when I first glanced at it, I was like, whoa, I think this stuff's pretty deep. And it is if you take it all in one dose. But we decided maybe it would be better if we just take them one at a time or 2 at a time and talk about some of this. And the very first one just fell right into what we were talking about evangelism and the early John Wesley preachers and how they evangelized and following exactly what Jesus did, going out to evangelize. And yeah, is evangelism a new buzzword? I don't think it's a really new buzzword, because God's Great Commission from Matthew 28:19 and 20. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations. Is that not instructing us to go out and evangelize? Go out and talk to the people where they are, not just location where they are, but where they are in their faith journey and following Jesus, becoming disciples. I think that is a big part of that. Can you respond, Debbie? I don't know if you're back on or not. You're not back on. So what does it mean? What does it mean to evangelize? Jesus was instructing his faithful followers to leave where they were, go find others, and invite them to follow him also. But the question is, how did Jesus do that? How did he want his disciples to go out and do that? And we're fortunate we don't have to figure that out, because Jesus answered that question. when he explained throughout each of the Great Commission passages to teach what he taught, be witnesses of his life, preach repentance and the forgiveness of sin, feed the sheep, and baptize in his name. One of the big dangers of evangelism is being, I would say, over the top with people, hitting them with too much expectation, and not letting them grow and become who they are in this new thing called church, or being a follower of Jesus. And Debbie and I talked earlier that sometimes you can be too prepared, so that you're not able to just kind of go with the flow. And it's important when we are talking to new Christians, talking with non-believers, how do we interact with them? We have to make sure that they're comfortable where they are, that we're not trying to pull them too quickly. We want it to be a win for them and for us, and us, God's called servants, to do the evangelism for him here on earth. If it is not individual person focused, then you have lost the intent of evangelism. That is very true. And we have several of us from First Church that have been attending a study group called Fresh Expressions. And some of you have heard about this. Those that attended were Tim Ming, Tad Whitmire, Debbie, myself, Karen Kelly, Karen Strife, and Tom Trasher. Fresh Expressions is evangelism in a different form. It's not about in your face kind of thing. It's exactly what Jesus did. He went out where the people were in their spot in life. Where are they on their life journey? I won't say their faith journey, because a lot of them didn't have the faith at that time, or they were afraid of what the church might expect of them, or what did they have to commit. And I think that's the same as it is today. Some people are afraid to get too close, to become involved, because what does that mean of me? What do I have to give? What's my time commitment? The unchurched or previously churched population, most often they aren't interested in coming into our big old beautiful church building. We love it inside those walls. But this first session or section about the dangers of church, are we an insider church? And you might think, insider church, is that some political term? Or no? Are we insider meaning are we just inside the walls of our church, or are we open and willing to have all kinds of people from all walks of life, all ages, all abilities. Are we open to having them come into our building? Very few people, very few churches actually talk about evangelism anymore. Churches are doing church differently. But if we stop trying to reach new people with the hope and love of Christ, then our churches, some of the big churches, function more like a club, like a social club. And that's not the purpose. Yes, we need fellowship. Yes, we need activities. Yes, we need to be together and enjoy. But that's not the big reason why we're there. And sometimes just thinking evangelism, oh no, on the spiritual gifts thing, I always said no. I'm not an evangelist. That's not one of my gifts. And even though I'm a very outgoing person, it still is intimidating just thinking about the word. But there's so many ways to do it. Just being with people, just getting to know them. And like Debbie mentioned, maybe in line at the grocery store, or sitting in the library, or at the gas pump. And there's so many ways, and unfortunately those settings are probably a one and done. Not going to see those people ever again. But just by being kind to them and sharing a smile with them might have brightened their day. We just never know. We never know. So we know since COVID that our churches, the attendance is much smaller than what it was, because a lot of people decided that they were just as comfortable, they got just as much from attending church online or on TV. And that was the way we did the first year, because we weren't allowed to meet any place together until we came upon the parking lot church, which it was really, really hot and it was really, really cold. But we had so many people that came to parking lot church. And when we all honked our horns to praise God for the music or for whatever it was, it was a very special time for us. And I think we bonded and became stronger because of that. And that's what evangelism does. It bonds people together, draws us closer into a similar situation, activity, and it may not go anywhere. Fresh Expressions is about going out into the community and sharing who we are, share our story. It's not about sitting down and preaching the gospel to them right this second, because they're not ready for that. Well, some of them might be, but doubtful that they are ready for that. So we just have to take our time. It's a walk. It's not a run. It's not a short sprint that we're doing. It's a marathon. And that marathon will hopefully last our whole lifetime. So Fresh Expressions, yes, it's a new way to do evangelism outside the walls of the church. And the outreach committee for First Church has talked a number of times about different activities, different things that we can do in the parking lot to, quote, attract attention of our neighbors. So we will be sharing some of those. Hopefully very soon we'll be doing some things in the parking lot. We've talked about having ice cream socials. We've talked about a movie. Nothing is in concrete. Although we know that we will be doing Santa Calagon parking. And that's an outreach ministry. Because if we talk to those people as they're coming in, and now we're giving them information about First Church and our worship times, and we have so many repeat customers that come back because they say they like to park in a place where they know their car is safe. They like us because we're friendly, and we do give them free water. Yeah, we do give them free water. And maybe that one guy that asked me if our church prayed for people when he pulled in the parking lot last year took me by surprise. I thought, yes, we do. Yes. And he said, could you pray for me? And I'm looking around and I'm like, well, I don't see Pastor Lydia. I don't see Ross. Where's Tad? And then the words came out of my mouth and I said, yes, pull up to the curb. I will pray for you. And I thought in that 3 seconds that I walked over to his car, what am I going to say? And I asked him specifically, is there anything I can pray for you right now? What are you needing? And he said, nothing special, just pray for me. And God put the words in my mouth. They honestly came from my heart through God. There was no other way that would have happened. And he thanked me. He pulled down and parked his car, and he came back through and specifically came to me and thanked me for praying for him. And that was a big step of evangelism. And I didn't even realize. Yep, it was one of those one and done. And we're going to have a lot of those. But if it plants the seed for other people, then it's worth our time, it's worth our effort. And hopefully we can connect through some of our fresh expressions. Hopefully we can connect with some of the people on a routine, on a regular return kind of basis. So I don't have time to get into that part. I was going to talk about how some churches grow and at the expense of others, but I want to read you the devotion that came to me yesterday morning. It's a combined from Deuteronomy 30:20, Genesis 1:27, and Romans 12:2. So the thoughts for this devotion came from those three scriptures. Stop worrying long enough to hear my voice. I speak softly to you in the depths of your being. Your mind shuttles back and forth hither and yon, weaving webs of anxious confusion. As my thoughts rise up within you, they become entangled in those sticky webs of worry. Thus my voice is muffled, and you hear only white noise. As my spirit is quiet, your mind, so that you can think my thoughts. Ask my spirit to quiet your mind so you can think my thoughts. This ability is an awesome benefit of being my child, patterned after my own image. Do not be deafened by the noise of the world or that of your own thinking. Instead, be transformed by renewing your mind. Sit quietly in my presence, letting my thoughts reprogram your thinking. I mean, this whole thing was exactly what we were talking about. Be quiet, be silent, let my thoughts reprogram your thinking. And I challenge each of you today to find that quiet place. If it's out on your deck or out on your patio, out front, if it's in your car while you're driving someplace, or you just sit quietly in the room where you are and let God reboot your heart and your soul for today and for this week. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we will see you back here next Monday. Have a wonderful week, everybody.